So the problem that we have, and this is, I'm going to repeat a few things that, that Miriam put out there, but the problem that we have, right, is that we live on a warming planet, right? Temperatures are going up. But the other side of the problem is that humans don't experience this. We have no idea that today the global mean temperature is close to 1.5 degrees C. It's just not sensible to us. And that's because of this. So this is a time series from Denver, Colorado of daily air temperature. This is how people experience climate change. They experience it through the lens of their daily weather. And so one of the things that attribution does is it helps connect these two scales. And what we've been trying to do with the Climate Shift Index is to be able to do this on a daily basis. You can go in any day and decompose the influence that climate change has had on that day's temperatures. So event attribution, as Miriam said, has been around for a while, about a decade or so, of really important work in building up the toolkit, building up the scientific approaches, building up the credibility of the work, especially in the media, and I think that's been a fantastic part of the World Weather Attribution Project. So the key thing is that we're not going to answer the cause question. We're going to talk about a change in likelihood, or in some cases, you can talk about a change in the magnitude of the event. And of course, world weather attribution has really led the field, right, of developing the methodologies and getting it to the point where you can use this for these rapid analyses and really do so in a way that makes a difference. And so what we've done, though, is to try to take the toolkit that world weather attribution has and be able to do it more quickly and in a somewhat automated way. So for example, here's an alert that we put out this summer about a pulse of heat that rolled through Europe in about the middle of July. So you can see the animation on the bottom with the temperature anomaly on the left and our climate shift index map, which I'll explain later on the right. But the key thing here is upcoming. We were able to put this together using a forecast. So the idea was to really prime the media community to say that there's an event coming and that you actually can talk about it as a climate event. So we obviously can't get the impacts that Julie was talking about because the impacts haven't happened yet. But the idea is that as those impacts happen and get reported on, people can now convey that as part of the climate story. So the way the Climate Shift Index works is you can think of it as starting with a map like this. This is a map of global temperatures from ERA 5, the global temperature anomaly on a particular day in July 10th. So you can see it was warm in Europe, it was warm in the southwestern US, it was cool in South Africa. And then we take every pixel on that map and we run it through very similar machinery to what world weather attribution has, and we put it and we turn it into a map like this, where now the red colors are telling you how strong the climate change influence is on that particular day's temperatures. So anywhere that's red, so you notice Africa and South America really stand out. There's an important global equity lens that shows up when you do this work. But we also see that the heat anomaly in Europe got to level 5 on our scale, and I'll explain what that means, as well as the heat in the southwestern US. So the way we do this is we look at, for any location on the planet, we go to the ERA 5 data and we characterize the frequency of temperatures for that roughly 2-week period at that location. And then we remove the signal of global warming back to a counterfactual of 0 degrees Celsius. So we go from about 1.27 degrees, our modern temperature, and we look at what that distribution would be in a world without climate change. We do that with a few different methods that we combine together. The pathway on the left uses observation, so we're using the local relationship, essentially how sensitive temperatures are at that location to global warming. And that gives us one way of making that shift. And then we have a pathway on the right that uses global climate models, some that have been run with carbon dioxide forcing, some that have been run without extra CO2 forcing, and then we have a very direct comparison. And then we bring all of that together. Okay, so now I'm going to build up what our Climate Shift Index scale is. And it's similar in spirit to what Miriam was showing with the probability ratios. But we designed it to be able to work with everyday temperatures, not just the extremes. So the scale starts in the middle. You'll notice that's the point where those two curves cross. and we give that a score of 0. So that basically, what we're saying is that climate change has not altered in a detectable way the frequency of those particular temperatures. They're essentially equally likely in both climates. Move to the positive side of the scale. So level 1, we're saying that climate change is detectable. It's technically 1.5 times more likely. Level 2 is 2 times more likely. Level 3 is 3 times more likely, 4 and 5 times more likely. And we stop our scale at present at level 5. That's to make it a little bit conservative because we're still getting a feel for how this system works. And so we're a little reluctant at this point to get to like the 30x numbers and some of the bigger numbers. So we want to be a little bit cautious and conservative at this point, especially when we're doing this in an automated way. But we also have the negative side of the scale, and we felt like this was a really important thing to develop because it's important for transparency, because there are days where the temperatures are cool, where the temperatures are less likely because of climate change, and that's what the gray numbers mean. So -2 means half as likely or 2 times less likely because of climate change. And we wanted to be able to say this for every temperature that's out there. So here's a map from September 27th that you can get from our global map service, which is csi.climatecentral.org. There's nothing particularly magical on the 27th. That was just the day that I had to turn in my slides. But if you go to the map today, you will notice that the map actually looks a lot like this. So Europe is very warm today, unusually warm, and we're getting some strong signal from the climate shift index. So Paris, right now we are experiencing climate shift index level 2. So the temperature is 2 times more likely because of climate change. London, where I was a couple days ago, is today at level 3, so 3 times more likely. We can also do, oh, here's a great video. Let me show you the great video. Hopefully this will play. No. Is there any way you could click on that video, please? So we are also making our data available in a KML format, and we've worked with some meteorologists in the United States to demo this, to set up a demonstration service so they can incorporate these maps in their broadcasts. Okay. Not going to work? Okay. All right. Well, so I already showed you this. So let me go back here. So let's imagine that there's a TV weathercaster who is doing an incredible story about the temperatures about the smoke in Albany, New York, right? About 60 miles or so, 200 kilometers or so north of New York City. They were experiencing smoke from the Canadian wildfires. He put together this really beautiful story. So he used our maps that he was able to download and bring into his IBM Max weather system. And he showed the map of Canada showing the climate shift index temperatures, and he put little flames on top of it where the fires were, and you could see that the fires were really lining up with the unusually warm climate-driven temperatures. And so he was able to use this to connect the smoke that people were experiencing with global warming through the temperatures underneath the fires. So we'll try to figure out how to share that. It's a really amazing video. Of course, we also are trying to package these up in alerts for specific events, and we're distributing them through a number of channels, including working with World Weather Attribution. And then a couple of other maps. This is the map from August 16th, 2023. So you notice how much red there is on the map. Notice how much red there is in places like India and China, most of Africa, parts of the United States, and Europe. This was the highest exposure of humanity to climate change that we've found. If you just total up the number of people who are experiencing the climate shift index at level 3 or higher, we get to, I believe the number is 4 billion people on that day were experiencing temperatures that had a detectable significant climate fingerprint. So we think there's a lot that you can do with this data for different storytelling. So here are just a few of the resources. Feel free to take a picture of that. And if you are interested in our KML service, please talk to me and I'll help you connect you with that. So thank you very much.